Hi again, folks, and we're doing a different kind of video today, and this video has to do with this giant stack of video games you see right here. This is a recent pickups video where I talk about games that I recently acquired. And I decided to do this because I've done a similar video in the past when I was reviewing Retro Game Treasures, which is like a loot box type service, but you get retro video games in it, about 3 to 5 games in the box. And I was going to do like a monthly to bi-monthly review for it, but I decided it was kind of not worth doing. On top of that, I'm also not sponsored by them, even though I still use the service. The service is fantastic. I've actually got several of these through that service. And so with that being said, we're going to hop into it. So looking at the stack of games, I'm going to start from the top, and we may not go all the way to the bottom in this episode. I might make it a two-parter. I don't want this to go on too long. So with that being said, the first game... Pokemon Yellow for the Game Boy. Now you may be wondering, J-Foo, that's some interesting art for that game you have there. Yes, and the game is in here. Pokemon Yellow. I make covers for all of my games to protect them. It's almost a compulsion for me. Like, I will stay up ridiculous, ludicrously long late nights making covers for boxes for my retro games. I don't know why, but it's just something I gotta do. But this is a custom cover. This one I actually found that someone had done, and I kind of touched it up and made it more my own. But anyways, you may be wondering, where did I get this case from? This case is literally a Nintendo DS case, and I basically modified it to fit a Game Boy game instead of a Game Boy Advance game right there. Usually they look a little nicer than that, but this one was a little tricky. I got this for about 18 bucks at a local retro game store called Cardinal Gaming. That's not a bad deal, since this game usually goes for $23 to $25 online, so pretty happy with that. And also, in middle school, I sold all of my old Pokemon games to my science teacher for some reason. Didn't understand collecting back then. So we're going to move on from this one. We're actually going to move on to something different that doesn't concern, well, it concerns games, but it's not a game. I got these two when they announced Bayonetta for the Switch. The Player 1 and the Player 2 Bayonetta figures. Man, the amiibos are so awesome. Like, they're so detailed, and they get her character pretty much perfect in these poses. And they cost about $25 a piece because they're hard to find. So I love that I have these, but they were hard to get. One came from Japan. Moving on from that, we have a game that I've played, but I never played it on its native system at the time. This is a Genesis game. I played it on the Dreamcast in the Smash Pack Volume 1 that came with my Dreamcast. Vector Man. Now, this one came in the box. This was from Retro Game Treasures. It came in the box. The box is pretty roughed up. I mean, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if the camera will focus out or not while I'm doing that. But it's pretty rough, but a lot of games are worth more still, even if the box is roughed up. So I kept it. But I keep them in these little plastic protective cases. All of my games that I have boxes for, I keep in these plastic protective cases. And this one, it actually has a sleeve, a dust cover. And it actually still has the manual with it. It's a black and white manual, though. And then here's the insert that the game goes in. It's pretty roughed up, too. But it still functions to a degree. And then I have the cartridge right here. And what's cool about this one, though, I didn't know this. Because, again, my first exposure to this game was on the Dreamcast. And by the way, this was created to be a competitor for Donkey Kong. Because it uses the same kind of pre-rendered 3D graphics that Donkey Kong Country uses. Anyway, that aside, this game, if you look at the box, if I can get this back in here real quick, because I don't want to mess it up. There we go. If you look at the corner there, it says Play to Win. Play to Win has a completely different definition nowadays. That definition is EA, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Anyway, Play to Win, $25,000. See back. If you look at the back, this game was a part of a contest where there were over 100 grand prizes no, 100 first prizes. There's 2 grand prizes. One was to win over $25,000 was the grand prize. 1 of 10 people will receive $10,000. And then the rest of them will all get Sega Saturns, which came out pretty much around the time this was out. And the way you knew that you had a winning cartridge is that you had to beat the game. When you beat the game, it would give you a splash screen at the end of the credits that basically said you're a winner. And then you could collect your prize. And I have not tested to see if this one is a winner. I've played some of it, but I've not gotten all the way to the end yet, because this game is kind of hard for me. But that aside, I'm really eager to see what the outcome will be. So we might do a video on that by itself, maybe a more in-depth video on Vector Man in general. But from what I discovered reading up on online is that you were required to send your cartridge into Sega though if you had a winning cartridge. So I don't know if this is one of them or not, you know, because these things can end up anywhere nowadays. Like the N64 DD, you know, like there's still prototypes that are just popping up that no one even knew existed for that, and it never even came out in America. So we're gonna move on to the next item. This next item was a very interesting one, but I love it for 2 reasons. One, because it's a brand new Super Nintendo game that came out in 2016. You don't get to say that very often. And on top of that, it's not that great, but the translations are horrible. And that equals some great fun. Anyways, it is Unholy Night, the Darkness Hunter. And it is, I will tell you this right now, I play a lot of my games on my Retron 5 because it's just sheerly convenient for me. This cannot play on a Retron 5. It can play on a clone hardware system, which means it doesn't emulate the hardware through software. If your head is spinning, I understand completely why, because that makes a lot of no sense to a degree, to people who don't know what emulation and, you know, clones are and yada yada yada. But that being said, it has to be played on hardware. So I have a Super Nintendo, so I had to go bust that out of the dust, and I look up at the chest I have over there and plug it in. I played it. It's not a bad fighting game, but it's definitely not the best fighting game. And the music could have been a little better. But honestly, the selling point of this game, which I'm going to give you a little taste of the translation this game suffers. Give me 1 second here. By the way, it comes with a full color manual, a nice little insert and everything. That's the cartridge. Hey, look at that. That's nice. That's beautiful. Alright, so we're gonna go into the book here, and I'm gonna read you the story of Unholy Night, the Darkness Hunter.
Rule to hunt human beings, the Darkness Clan. As the fear and enemy of human beings since ancient, the Darkness were disappeared from the rise of civilization. But they are not perished and standing alive in Darkside. The Darkness still hunting human being today. And there are some humans still fighting nowadays hunter whom hunt the Darkness Clan in Darkside. One day, a rumor rang to those who live in the dark fight. The coffin that sealed the Middle Ages' strongest vampire, Catatonia, which had taken away from the sealed palace and had been placed in the Dragon Palace. The seal that gathers the dragon aura in the palace gradually weakens and eventually broken. Catatonia will be awake with mighty power and exceeds the past. At that time, the world will be in dark era. The Darkness Clan want power from Catatonia, but hunters try to contain Catatonia again. Dragon Palace, which is somewhere in world, seeking to revive of Catatonia, Darkness Clan and Hunter's death battle have begun.
That is just a taste of what you can find in this game. Good news is that it goes for very cheap, and I think I got it for $10 on Amazon, and that's like free shipping. Because it was kickstarted, not really well received, but again, it's not a horrible game, but it's definitely not a great fighting game either. With that being said, we'll move on to the next item. Have you ever watched a James Bond movie and wondered why there aren't more goldfish in it? Well, ASC Studios wondered that exact question, so they came up with Super James Pond. He is a cyborg goldfish with a similar appearance to RoboCop, but with a goldfish for a head. This game is odd. When I told people I found one, they told me to get it and that it was a good game. I have not played it yet. I've had it for a little bit, but I just haven't played it. And it came in box, as you can see. It came in box. It does not have a manual, though. It didn't even have an insert for the cartridge, though. So I had to make a cardboard insert using cardstock, and that was not easy. That was another sleepless night. Anyway, I come to find out, I believe the game was released originally on the Amiga game console. If you don't know what the Amiga was, it's a game console that was made by a PC company, I think, that was popular in Europe. I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little more research on that myself. But they ported this game over, which I think is actually the second James Pond game, but they just called it Super James Pond in America and localized it to be the first game in America that is a part of the James Pond series. This game, it was apparently really well received, even though it looks kind of weird to me. Like, I don't think the graphics are like great for a Super Nintendo game. But they even ported it over to the Nintendo DS and I think the 3DS as well. So, I mean, someone's keeping this game alive. I don't know who or why, but they are. So, I mean, I may play this for this video, so I can have some footage. Let me read you the description of the game.
Dr. Maybe is back. He's taken over the central toy factory on the North Pole and sabotaged some toy penguins with tiny, lethal explosives. If they're not defused within 48 hours, they'll be sent throughout the globe and wreak havoc during Christmas. Your mission is to infiltrate the factory and free the penguins. You will need your RoboCod RoboSuit to help you. Jump into action with Super James Pond from American Softworks.
Oh my god, okay, so, the game features a massive play area with over 25,000 colorful screens of action-packed gameplay. That's actually a lot. But anyways, 9 enormous levels, though, so 2,500 colorful screens in 9 levels. That's a lot of screens in a single level. That's all I really have to say about this game. Again, I've not played it. It seems kind of odd, very weird, but also seems to have some kind of cult following. So with that, we'll move on to the next product. This one's a bit weird because I actually had just bought it this week at a retro game store, Cardinal Gaming, and then my retro game treasure came in and I got it again. Normally I would be annoyed by this because the service tries not to give you duplicates that are already in your inventory, but to their credit though, I didn't add this to my inventory until earlier this week, and they had already sent me the retro game treasure box, so kind of unavoidable, you know, a coincidence happens like that. But this is Super Mario All-Star. This is the one I bought at Cardinal Gaming. I have all these Universal game cases, and I make covers for them. So that's a custom-made cover there, you know, with custom-made back and everything like that. So, I mean, it's not in near-new condition. And I don't have many that are in near-new condition. James Pond's probably one of the closest ones. I have a Yoshi game over there that I got a long time ago. So, I mean, it's protected and everything in this case, but it's not. It's basically a used, great condition game. But then in Retro Game Treasures, I got Super Mario All-Stars again in a almost near pristine box. And it didn't stop there. Like, I was shocked to see it again. I was kind of annoyed when I saw it, because, like, they know I have this. But I do like having box versions, and I have these plastic protector boxes I put them in, so, you know, not too big a deal. So let me open this up for you, and I'll show you what I mean as I was doing it. If you take a look, I don't know if you can see in the camera, the edges are kind of worn on where someone obviously opened up the box a couple times, and it kind of got worn out from there. But, oh, by the way, it was in plastic still, but the plastic still had been broken, so they were just keeping it in the plastic, I guess, to try and protect the box, but I have a plastic box to put that box in now, so it doesn't really matter. So, I went ahead and just took that plastic off, because again, the plastic was open, you know, so they could slide the game in and out. And I'm being very careful, because with these box games, I don't want to damage anything else more than it already is. First of all, it didn't come with the dust protector. I actually had that laying around. The label's perfect condition. It's got some scratches on it, but it's very minor. The label's very shiny, very untarnished. That's very rare. The insert here is in perfect condition. It's pretty much not used. What else does it have here? The consumer information caution booklet for how to take care of your games and stuff. That was shipped out with every game. A Nintendo Power information brochure. I turn into Bowser's worst nightmare. And what does it say? It says, thanks to Nintendo Power. And that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, this thing has no real value to me because Nintendo Power doesn't exist anymore, and this is an old thing. But it's really cool to have a piece of history. I'm always big on having pieces of history. And it has an instruction manual that is also in pristine condition. Color is not faded. It is in color, by the way. I mean, look at that. That is amazing. All the illustrations, all Nintendo illustrations. And if you're not familiar with Super Mario AllStars, Super Mario AllStars is basically the first 3 Super Mario games combined into one compilation, plus Super Mario The Lost Levels, which is actually the real Super Mario Bros. 2. If you watched my Secret Development of Super Mario Bros. 2 video, which I will link here and with an I button there, you can click on that and watch that video. That video is interesting and fun to make, and it was fun to make. One of the coolest things that came with this is a Nintendo Power poster that advertises an up-and-coming game, Star Fox. This blew my mind, and also, other than this small tear here, this poster is also in perfect condition. So, I have a like new. Like new means it's probably had the seal broken, but everything else is pretty much perfect. A like new version of Super Mario All-Stars. And that goes for, that's a pretty good collector's item to have. That is something I'm excited to have in my collection. I may give this, the other copy that I have here, away to Stormy. Because I know he doesn't have one, and he doesn't have the original first 3 games either, so, you know, might as well help out a friend. And it has a cool cover I've already made for it, and might as well get some use, you know. Oh, crap, I can't get it in there. We'll cut this part out. So with that being said, I think we're going to end this video with 2 more games I'm going to show you, because I have a specific theme with these. This one here, it doesn't have a cover because I literally just got it today. And it is Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't know if this is based off of just the novel. I don't know if this is based off of the movies. I do not know. One thing I saw when I looked it up, though, it had like a near perfect rating. It was like a good score. But after reading up history on it, it was also voted like one of the worst games ever made. I've not played it yet, because again, I just got it, but that doesn't make any sense. So I might have to do some more research on that, but usually when you have a game that's like considered one of the worst games ever, like Bad Dudes, or the next game I'm going to show you, you usually know about it. You know, it's usually made fun of hilariously. And with this one, I've never heard anything. Until I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia isn't the best source for all knowledge, but that's just roughly where I go to get a general idea of a game that I received that day, you know. So, if we're talking about worst games ever, this one probably takes the cake, because when I put this game on my Retron 5, I get an error message saying, are you sure you really want to play this game? And you have the option of saying no, and it will take you back to the main menu, so you can put in and it tells you to put in a different game. Or you can click yes, and it asks you again if you are 100% sure if you want to play this game. And that game
Shaq Diesel, baby.
It's Shaq Foo. Oh my god, this is custom art. No, that I didn't do this art. This is art I found that I used to think, but look at the back. Look at that. Shaq is just so happy to have his own video game. This is not a good game. And in fact, though, I'll say this though, kudos to Shaq though for trying to be a movie star, trying to be a video game star back in the 90s. Because even though Kazam was horrible and Steel was horrible, it was one of the few dreams that man got to live that he was excited to live, and he was just a basketball player. And he's quoted for saying the reason why he did those movies, that he was asked if he wanted to be in a movie, and as a kid he always wanted to be in a movie, and so he got to be in a movie. And that's pretty cool. But back to how bad this game is. It's a fighting game. You know, a fighting game a la Street Fighter 2, yada yada. The levels are gigantic. The sprites are too small. The jump has no control. When you jump in the game, you can't control the distance of the jump, the height of the jump, or where you're going to land. When you jump, you're going that full length of that jump, and it is frustrating. The story mode is also ridiculously hard for no real reason. And I say that because it's true. Like, I've only managed to beat one opponent in the game, and that was the cat lady. And then the second opponent, he is ridiculously unfair because he has crazy reach. The game's horrible, but I also have a huge soft spot for it because when my friend at the time got the game, we played it non-stop. And the reason for that being is because back then we were huge fans of Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan and stuff, and that was the time of Space Jam, you know, and all these other things. I'm pretty sure Kazam would come out, I'm not 100% sure. And we thought this game was the bomb. We played this forever. And I feel like I used to actually be good at the game, but I do not remember how to play this game anymore. And in fact, I couldn't figure out how to do a single move in the game. But I actually pursued this one online and got it really cheap. And even though it's a bad game, it was worth every penny. And the reason why I say that is because it's something that's dear to me. It's a memory. This is a memory for me. It's nostalgia. And it gets to be in my collection now because of that. And that's what a lot of these are. A lot of these are just... Some of these games are horrible. Some of these games are god-awful. I have Bad Dudes. And I still love that game, but it's not good. Like, Lawnmower Man. I have Lawnmower Man. That is a horrible game based off of a mediocre movie that featured Pierce Brosnan. But I have the game because it was a game that me and my brother and my dad liked because we liked action movies at the time. It's stuff like that I collect. I collect memories. I collect the past. Like the retro games. Duh, that's what that means. You know, it's old. But I like having the history. I like preserving it. And as I was younger, I got rid of a lot of my older stuff. I don't have any of my original Super Nintendo games that I had at the time. You know, I had F-Zero, I had Super Mario World, I had The Lion King for the Super Nintendo. I lost all that because I just didn't really care about it. I didn't know where it all is. Luckily, I was able to find most of my Nintendo collection. But as I got older, I realized how much a part of me all these games are. And I feel a compulsion to preserve the history that these games create, or the history that they mean to me. And I also like having the stories that they represent. Like, where's that? I don't mean to be rambling about this, but these all mean something to me because of the story that they have, the story that these games hold. All different games. But if you notice here, these right here share a similar box design. And that's because I created this template, but it's based off of the actual original covers. The Tengen games, the Tengen catalog of Nintendo games. You know, RBI Baseball, Gauntlet, Pac-Man, There's a whole 20 more of these. But if you notice, I have Pac-Man and Pac-Man. Let me sorry, cut that out. I have 2 copies of Pac-Man. Why would I have 2 copies of Pac-Man? I'm usually not a big fan of having duplicates. That's why I'm getting rid of one of my Super Mario All-Stars. Well, here's the difference. Pac-Man, clearly an official Nintendo game. Still produced by Tengen, though. I gave it a different cover because it was an official game, so I gave it a more official cover. Tengen. Pac-Man. Completely different cartridge. And that's because Tengen decided they wanted to basically steal the technology from Nintendo and make their own games. And there's a whole court battle. A whole court battle concerning these unlicensed games. And it is so cool that I have this story in my collection. One of my goals is to collect all of the Tengen games, which I got a good 20 more to do. The most expensive one they have is Tetris. Usually goes for about 80 bucks. And so, with that being said, I didn't mean to rant about what retro games mean to me, but that's what I like about collecting. It is about preserving history and collecting a story. I could probably tell you a story about the development of several of these games. That might be a video for another day. But I think with Shaq Fu, I got one more thing I want to show you guys, and we will end this episode. This is an accessory for my Retron, actually, and it also works for the Nintendo Switch. The FC30 controller also can be called the NES 30 controller Pro version by 8-Bit Dough. If you go to the website, I'll put the link in the description below. It's 8-Bit Dough. They make these very modern-looking retro controllers. It's Bluetooth and can actually sync up to my Retron 5, so I can play my retro games using it. Because if you didn't know... Wait, we're going to jump cut, and I'll be back with something that will look freakish. Do you know what this is? This is not a controller for an RC car. This is the controller for the Retron 5, and I hate this thing. The only reason why I've ever even used it is because it's Bluetooth. It being Bluetooth allows me to sit in the very far back of my room and play my retro games without me like having to be tethered by a cord, and I love that. But I can only really play RPGs with it because in an RPG, usually precision jumping isn't a big part of it. Because this analog stick is horrible for platforming. I hate this thing. You don't even get a D-pad with this. And with platformers back in the day, you need a D-pad for precision jumping. I cannot play Super Mario with this. It is horrible. And with this is a happy medium. It's Bluetooth, and it simulates the buttons properly. And it has a D-pad and an analog stick. That's fantastic. And you can also use this on the Nintendo Switch. The only downside, though, is that you have to swap between firmwares to be able to use the Switch or to use it on a Retron 5. I keep it set to Retron 5 mode because I use that. I use the Joy-Cons for the Switch more often than something like this. Well, that means I would grab this. This is a really cool thing. They sell for about 30 to 40 bucks, and they're very convenient. They're very cool looking. I love them. And so, with that being said, folks, that's the end of this pickups video. I have more games I can show you in the near future. These are still more of my recent pickups. I can show you more of these if you want. I have a whole list. There's more up here. There's more over here. There's some in my room, you know, because I don't have room over here anymore, because I also have manga and anime DVDs up there as well. If you guys want to see it, I'll show it. I don't care. Just anything. Anyway, with that being said, folks, I'll see you guys on the other side, and for what it's worth, if you're playing video games, collecting video games, whatever you do, just have fun. And I also want to thank my Patreon supporter, Alyssa. Thank you. I forgot you in the last video. I will say your name this time around because I forgot to put your name in the video. I'm so sorry. You can hop on Patreon and help support me and help grow this channel. Please like, share, comment on this video. Sharing it with friends, families, you know, coworkers, anyone will help me out tremendously. We're on that long, slow climb to 1,000 subscribers. Right now, we're at almost 170. So we got some work to do. Well, we don't. I do. I have some work to do. And with that being said, folks, I'll see you guys. And I'm out of here. Bye. Oh, I gotta clean all this up.